Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 4th season, we are looking at Kenneth Branagh's 2011 film, Thor. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast. Matthew is still out sick. Today, we are talking about minute 93, which begins with Thor giving his word at the Bifrost Junction and ends with a frosty entrance to Odin's chambers. Joining us again on the show today, we have James Anderson and Colin M. Parker, hosts of the Timeline Scavengers podcast. Gentlemen, thanks for coming back.
Hey.
Thank you for having us. Hello.
So what are your connections to Thor, the character? Were you reading him in the comics? Were you a fan of him in the comics? Or was it the movies where he clicked for you?
Infinity
Gauntlet?
Infinity War.
Oh.
It was the one with the doppelgangers, had evil doppelgangers, and it was like the whole Marvel universe. That's mostly where I know Thor from. And then I got the Marvel Masterworks of Avengers, and Thor's in that.
Yeah.
And then the movies, and that's pretty much it. Thor was never really my guy.
Comics-wise, I don't think I ever... I definitely don't have a single Thor comic book. Before, now. He wasn't a character I always really clicked with. I always thought there was some very funny stuff about how he clearly was from a totally different place and land. But I've always really appreciated reading him in Avengers comics, where everyone is written in the same type of font, and then or hand writing, and then whenever he speaks, it's ancient, old timey text. And I love that they color his character, even in text form, to show that he is not speaking like they do. So I still appreciated him and the way he was written. But the movies in the MCU are definitely where I first really started being okay, I could get into Thor. And now I've read I don't know how many I've actually truly read, as far as overall releases, because the other issue with comics is that they rebrand and reboot and relaunch series now all the time. Instead of letting them get into the major hundreds, they now go 20 issues and then they go, okay, it's going away. Just kidding. It's back after 2 months. But now it's a new number one. But I've definitely read easily upwards of 50 Thor comics, I think, at this point. Mostly because on Timeline Scavengers, I am the quote Thor expert.
Nice. So
I've been trying to dive more into his character in that way. And I do think that the the golden era Thor is I don't know why I said ancient. I'm sorry. That's so weird to say it
Those
like that.
Old guys.
You know that really old character Thor?
Yeah. I mean, well, in a way, it's not wrong. No, it is interesting, but I think that, when things got really modern and the difference between his world and our world got much larger, I think that really made the character way more fascinating. I've been really enjoying it though.
We have on our official Timeline Scavengers capital T capital S spreadsheet. We listed all the comics we own because you got to fill.
I got to finish filling that out.
You haven't finished filling it out. Well, mine is complete, and there's no Thor to be found on it.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Colin's as of now doesn't have any Thor on it.
No.
But
Gotcha. There's a lot.
I like him.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Well, and I think that probably in context of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the way that Chris Hemsworth plays him, I would think that there probably has been more people finding interest in reading Thor comics and going back and looking at some of the stories because I think he has made it such a fun character, and I think they've probably been able to bank on that a little bit.
Yeah,
the comics definitely now reflect a lot more of MCU stuff, which I know some people are going to think is pandering or money grabs or whatever. But I think truthfully part of it is that it makes it more accessible to people because you don't have to look at someone and go, wait, that's Thor or that's so-and-so. When every version of Iron Man now looks like Robert Downey Jr., it just, no matter what version you look at, you go, oh, clearly this is Iron Man. This is Tony Stark. Yeah. Same thing with Nick Fury. Now every version of Nick Fury is drawn the same way.
Yeah.
Thor has actually had a little bit of variety, mostly because they have really gone through different age periods of him in recent, comic books and stuff like that. But he's he basically frequently is drawn as having a very similar stature and kind of like face structure to Chris Hemsworth.
Very strong structure. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that they keep with
anyone
him.
that complains that comic books are becoming too money grabby isn't paying attention to what comic books are, or where they came from,
we
or what
really just don't want to go bankrupt. Please buy our
That's their goal, right?
Like,
right.
Yeah.
Well,
TV shows are just there to sell advertisements. Yeah.
But
Yes,
that's how we
the
keep it
whole
going.
thing. That's
That's how
the
we
whole
keep it
game.
going, right? Well, let's jump into this minute. We're looking at minute 93, and it starts off. We've got this Dutch angle rom-com goodbye is what I have it. This is the most Dutch angle friendly couple we could have because, I mean, Chris Hemsworth is a full head taller than Natalie Portman, and so it works really, really well when you give that great Dutch angle and they're looking into each other's eyes, and their eyes are horizontal, like the eye line between the two of them is completely horizontal in the frame. It works great in this minute. We have the two of them, and we're so close to them that you can't even really tell that the background isn't until he steps out of frame toward the end of the minute.
Yeah.
But you don't even realize that you're looking at a frame that is Dutch, and I think that that's actually kind of fun. But it's a very romantic minute, and this is something that I really enjoy in this film is we have these moments with Thor and Jane, and I know it's been like a 72-hour whirlwind romance, but in the world of romantic comedy and romance films, that's often the way it works. And I buy it with these two actors. I buy it with these two characters. I think that there is a connection, and I really enjoy it. How does it feel for the two of you as far as with these characters and the actors? Do you both buy into their romance and the relationship they have?
Yes. Okay. My thing is I frequently feel like Marvel doesn't do a great job with like their love stories, and I don't know what the thing is about that. Like, I don't know what it is. It just sometimes a lot of them fall very flat. And like, I think the characters and even the actors can have chemistry as far as like they clearly get along and they have a connection. But then when they're like, okay, now it's time to put our faces together, it frequently then suddenly I'm like, what am I looking at? Like, have either of you ever kissed before? Like, in general, But I love the fact that Thor, although I think part of this is what comes from the angle, right? Because he's no longer in the shot a head above her, there's sort of no difference within their power in their power dynamic in this frame. So you're not expecting necessarily Thor to have to be the one to lead, right? And then even though he clearly is enamored by this, by this woman, he takes the moment to kiss her hand instead to kind of be cordial because it's like, it's the first date, quote unquote, like I shouldn't just, go for it. And I appreciate that. And then she does, I think, probably the most relatable possible thing if you're inches away from Chris Hemsworth's face with consent is to she goes for it. She really goes for it. And it is easily the most believable kiss, I think, in the MCU in that moment. I could be wrong. Unless I'm forgetting any other kiss. I feel like that one, you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
I will agree with you. Because I think that I'm not sure if it's watching movies broken down into not movie length segments, but I've recently been like, kissing's so weird. Why would you film it? It's so how this is so. It's like she didn't give him time to prepare his face because he's like all of his mouth is in her mouth,
but like. At the same time,
and that's kissing. Like kissing isn't like beautiful and whatever.
Well, that's true.
It's
I will say
they're facing together. Like
it's romantic, but it's also not just like, okay, this is a like sweet kiss. There's like passion. There is heat.
There's real passion.
There is. If you didn't have to get on this bridge right now, buddy.
But don't you think
there's context there?
Natalie Portman's face right after they stop kissing conveys so much more, and I know you have to have the kiss be over. Whoa, that's deep, but but like I get it. It's like I'm going off to war on another
planet
realm. Yeah, I have to go to my other planet. Yeah, And so I guess what I'm saying is, the note that I sent Andy was, got to talk about that awful, awful, awful kiss. But the way you framed it, Colin, was it's believable, and I agree with that. It is what it would look like if you were someone that looked like Natalie Portman kissing someone that looked like Chris Hemsworth, and you've been together for 72 hours and haven't done that yet.
And also just in general, making out with someone who their entire mass is just far larger than yours. You know what I mean? Right. It's like watching, have you ever been to like a Renaissance festival?
Yes.
And those like giant ass those giant turkey legs that you can get?
Yes.
It's like watching when someone gives one of those to a kid, right? Because suddenly they have this thing that is as big as their head, and they're still like, and they're really going after it. You're like, wow, that's kind of impressive. That's good for you. That's how I felt in this moment. It's one of the only times in the MCU when she kisses him. It's been so long since I've seen this movie. Like as a full, kind of viewing, as opposed to not just seeing 966.
Right.
But when she kisses him, I out loud the first time I watched that, I went, good for you. Like, I just was like,
good for
damn straight. Yeah. What's interesting is in the script, the script, he kisses her hand, and then he's the one who instigates the actual, the full kiss.
The blocking of this is perfect.
Well, and it's just like, why would they, like, this was the perfect way to do it. Like, he kisses her hand and she kisses him. Like, I'm so glad that Branagh made that decision to flip-flop that, because it's like, why if he kissed her hand and then he kisses her, it takes that energy out of the moment. And now Jane has as much authority in the relationship as he does. And I think this is something that I think the MCU hasn't done well, is like, find these great characters and allow them to continue in strong ways.
Yes.
Jane really unfortunately falls off the map a lot. I mean, she's used quite a bit in the second film, but disappears for the third film. I'm glad she's finally coming back, and I can't wait to see what they do with her. But
I'm sorry, Jane dumped you. It was mutual. I don't what are you talking about?
I mean, well, I will say, I love the way they wrote it. Like, I love all of that, because it was great for Thor's character. But I love the character of Jane, and I want to see more of her in the story. And this is just such a great moment of the two of them.
Because she's coming back.
Oh, I know.
No, I was gonna say, it's funny because you were saying that, like, I'm glad that KB, as we like to call him here, because we're all good friends with him. Made that choice. Part of me is like, did he, or was Natalie Portman like, this is taking too long? Like, I want to kiss this man.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
it's
all that pent up energy she had when she was looking at him with his shirt off. She's like, ever since that moment, I've been trying to avert my eyes, but now I just want to jump into that thing.
Now, this is also me being painfully unaware of part of Chris Hemsworth's career before this, but like, also, has Chris Hemsworth ever before Thor,
thank you.
You're welcome. Before this movie, has Chris Hemsworth ever kissed someone on screen? Because I also almost feel like part of this also could be like, I'm scared to initiate this. Like, I don't know how to do this, like, convincingly on screen. She's like, I've done this a million times, honey. Let's go. I don't know.
Well, we'd have to go back to the Australian TV that he had been appearing in before all of this. He certainly didn't in Star Trek in that moment there, but I can't speak to the Australian shows. This may be his first on-screen feature film kiss.
I always forget that what's his name? Chris Hemsworth is less than a month younger than me.
Oh, there you go. See, that could be you right there.
That could be, in another reality,
in another multiverse.
I know James is very humble, but what you actually all don't know is that James got through so many rounds of interviews and casting calls for that movie. It's a real shame, but like, look, I get it. Like, Chris Hemsworth from Australia is just blonde, so it just was natural.
It's like, sometimes charity. It comes in many forms. And
also,
it just happens.
If you had been cast, you would have been 2 heads taller than Natalie Portman.
That's right. Well, they didn't tell me it was Portman. I call her Portman. She said it was fine. Until he was cast, and I tried to call him. He didn't pick up. It was a whole thing. But
it's the way the world works.
Story for another time.
The way the world works.
Yeah.
Well, in this story, they do break apart, and this is the end of their time together, sadly. Bifrost is engaged. Thor steps
and she
into
wishes
it.
that she was.
She is.
Engaged.
Right.
No, okay.
Engaged, right?
Yep.
And then we have Sif, Fandral, Thor, Hogan, the Grimm, and Volstagg. They all get sucked up into the Bifrost. What do you two think about the way the Bifrost is depicted in the film here?
So slow in this movie. It's
Power Rangers. Every time. Every single time I'm like, that's Power Rangers.
The part where they're getting sucked up off the planet, or like zipping through space?
When the travel time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
I think it conveys speed at a slow pace.
Yes.
Like it's very fast, but it's like
when they draw the Flash in like cartoons or like Sonic the Hedgehog, where it's like they're supposed to be going like Mach speed, but they have to like run slower in frame in the cartoon so that you can actually see the movement to like portray that. So it's the same thing. It's like they're going so fast, so slowly.
Yeah. It's like when a fan looks like it's going slowly the other way.
Yes, yeah.
Interesting. See, I kind of like it. I like the rainbow look. I like the kind of the zippiness of it. Everything. I think there's something cool about it. I mean, I can see your point, but I don't know. I guess
I'm not. To be clear,
okay, I was going to say
it looks bad.
Okay,
it's just funny because like every other version that we ever see of the Bifrost is like boom.
I know.
It's like, I mean, granted, like obviously, I think we only ever see them go through the actually through like the tube tunnel. I don't know what you want to call that, but like in Ragnarok, I think it's the only time we actually see people like, going straight up, through time and space for an extended period of time. What's that?
And space.
Did I not say time and space?
No, you did. Forget it. It's not.
I said space and time.
No, you said
time and space
for an extended period of time.
Oh, and space. Okay, now I get the joke. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's sometimes it has to be spelled out.
It's a way Homer.
Sorry.
But no, it's like I think that we don't see it often, and so that part stays the same. But like the actual moment of them like leaving the ground is weirdly very slow. But I still think it's fine. Same with how long it takes the Bifrost to appear. Every other time it's like Shazam, you're like, oh, sorry, it's a different property, but it's like, boom,
hold on,
you're there.
We're gonna lose our Disney
Captain
Plus
Marvel.
license.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
I got the impression that sometimes it sort of feels like the Bifrost is like a Bluetooth is available to pair with, and he has to toss up the hammer to complete that connection. Because it's not like they like. I guess in some movies it comes down and like pulls them up, but like sometimes it feels like in this one it was like it's connected. Heimdall has opened it, and it's like now we got to go through it, and
it is one of these things where they really are. I mean, this is the first time they're figuring out how to do it, and it is something they take so long in the course of this film. Every time the Bifrost happens, that I think all of the other filmmakers, anytime the Bifrost pops into their film, they're just like. I mean, it's like anything in a film. It's like, okay, it's like Tony Stark learning how to fly in his suits. And it's like, we don't need to see Rhodey learn how to fly in the suit because we've seen Tony learn how to fly in the suit.
Right.
And it's the same thing. It's the filmmaking shorthand, storytelling shorthand. It's like, okay, we know how the Bifrost works. The rest of the time, we're just going to do it real quick, pop in and out. And we don't need to see all the amazing clouds and everything. It's just there. And it ends up working.
Is it like Mjolnir, though? Do you think there's also some, like, for lack of a better term, like, intention there? Like, he can step backwards, but because he's still, like, present-minded on Earth for a moment, he's, like, still there. And it's like, once he's like, okay, I've said my final thought, now I can go. It's like the door is open, but he hasn't really, like, actually taken the step outside. Like, he's still in the doorway.
Like, the four of them are all standing in it. And it's like, why didn't they get sucked up right away? Like like a tube.
Once again,
it's one of these things.
They cut to just the action.
Yeah,
like I could use a little more movement into place here also, where it's like, okay, well, bye. I'm going to go over here. Now we watch Natalie Portman, and then boom, they're gone. Yeah. Like it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, they disappear pretty quick in that thing. But okay, so anyway, we get them back into Asgard. So now they're in Heimdall's observatory. They see Heimdall. Thor, wow, quick way to note
Fast.
that
that was my
Heimdall,
thought
like
earlier too.
less than a second, he's like, get him to the healing room. It's like, God, you barely had a time to process that. That's amazing.
He clocks it before he's even he hasn't even finished putting his boots in Asgard before he's like, get this man to the infirmary.
Yeah.
I would love to have seen him finishing the sentence, like, "At this man to the infirmary." Like, he's already started speaking.
He's already seeing it, right?
Or it's like squished at first. So it's like, get this man to the. It's like it comes in as he comes into the frame. So does his sound.
Doppler Thor.
Yeah.
So we have Volstagg. You pull Hofund out of the Bifrost keyhole, and I guess that this is just another element that's a setup for what is to come. As far as like they have to turn this thing off, right? I mean, we've kind of seen it a few times, and it's like somebody's got to do it because otherwise it could be dangerous, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't want to push to start Bifrost because then it's like, where did I put my sword? You don't want to. You want to have the key in the ignition before you.
Do they have Bifrost fobs? Bifobs.
Ooh, Bifob. Yeah, it's coming soon. Thor 4.
Not if they're Hofund size, that might be a little much though.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to find
the
a way
keychain on that.
Exactly. Right. So all right, now we've got this is really where we're getting action happening, right? Thor runs out, leave my brother to me, and we cut to Odin's chambers. Everything is icing up. The doors and the walls are covered in ice. We hear some cries of battle from the hallways outside. Frigga, always one to be ready to stand and fight, goes and pulls Odin's sword out of, I don't know. It's like an arm rest
the bedpost
sheath.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why is that a place like that you keep the sword? It was rather strange, but
4 swords in the bedpost. It's a new thing.
Everybody's going to be doing it
should
soon.
you need it.
It's a lot like, furniture today having cup holders, I think.
That's
but like
exactly what it is.
When you're a king or, an ancient warrior god, like you got to keep that thing on you 24/7. Yeah. So it's like, you're not going to put it in the bed. And I get it.
Right.
A man who
insisted.
sleeps, a man who sleeps with his sword under his pillow is a fool every night but one. And this is proof because Frigga was like, oh, you know what? Thank God we've got the sword holder.
Yeah,
that's right.
On the bed because it's readily available.
It's right
it's
there.
Like having, instead of the gun under your pillow, you have a holster behind the bedstand. It's that same, that
it's just built
Punisher
in.
Season 4, gonna see that.
What's that lyric? Every morning there's a halo hanging from my girlfriend's 4-post bed. It's that, but his sword.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
But my question, like, do you think that he stabbed it into that? Because something that we've seen plenty of times with Gungnir is he seems ready to just like, when he's talking, he just like stabs it into the ground and walks and talks, and Gungnir is just standing in the ground. And Loki does that too. It's like, this is a thing that the two of them have decided that they'll do all the time with the staff. It makes me wonder if, like, was there a hole here, or did Odin just put it here because, like, you know what? I need a place to put my sword. This'll do, and he just like jabs it in there.
Every day he chips a little bit further in until finally it's just a smooth.
It's a perfect, just in and out. It's great.
Then they get a new bed.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that we see his raven relaxing on its post behind there. Odin, we even get a shot of Odin. He's just sleeping away. I had a question. Do you think that he snores while he's in Odin sleep?
Yes, Odin and that is why we have El Nino.
Is that why El Nino? Is that why we have that golden, as Matthew calls it, the Odin jelly, kind of the big golden glow over him? Do you think that actually is also a little bit of a sound barrier? It keeps that out.
Absolutely, it's enough to shake the rafters. Like, listen, if you're a god who can, project your voice across, all of Asgard and have Odin's power, which again. The best thing about Odin is that he is all about branding. Yep. Every single thing he owns is Odin blank. I mean, it's everywhere. And so, like, Odin snore, Odin jammies, that he's in, I mean, everything, down to like topical eye cream or something. I don't know, for the eye that's underneath the patch.
Yeah, right. He's probably patented already the Odin armrest sheath.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's doing it, yeah. Well,
it could also be like a supernatural CPAP machine. It's like golden mist because he's a god, but it's like it makes sure that he doesn't.
Like a nebulizer kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It gives him,
like
maybe there's nutrients in it too, so he doesn't actually have to eat. It's
vitamins and
interesting. Maybe it's also sweat, like he's sweating that out, and it's.
I like that, yeah. And his sweat is like vitamins. It's like a
He could market it
like a recycle.
Vita Odin.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, geez.
See?
Yeah. Well, we have a lot to talk about next time. I mean, at this point, we have frost giants who have burst in. Frigga is ready to fight. But I think, actually, before we go, I do have a question for the two of you. Going back to what we were saying in the last minute, was Loki with them up to this point? Or up to what point? Did he send, okay, you two go through here and meet me later after you've done the deed? Like what? Like or did he come up with them? I'm just so curious. Like we saw him on the bridge with them, and now it's this.
Did we?
Well, yeah, right.
He sent an illusion. He was never there with them.
He was never there.
That's honestly not a bad guess.
That might be the
only thing is that he does open and close the Bifrost. So,
sure, but before they show up, he's like, bye, and then he does that smoke thing, the Loki smoke thing.
I mean, that's certainly... Oh, that's good. I was going to say, I think that's definitely a thing of... The thing that we were saying that's missing, of him saying, okay, here's the hidden pathway. Because also, remember, like, they got in before, too. Like, he got 2 or 3 in to the vault,
3,
in at the beginning of the movie. There's definitely a point in which
that was one of those things,
off.
though, where I think he says, okay, just do these things and then you'll be in the vault. Like, he wasn't guiding them. I mean, he was at Thor's coronation. So
right, correct.
Yeah, so here it's
but he had to give them the inside scoop. And I imagine that's part of what that might be why they're walking and not running at first, right? Like, they might run eventually because it's probably walking away. So he's saying, I'm going to go this way and you're going to go this way. This way, I can kind of cover this ground so that they don't see it coming or whatever. Yeah. Because also, like, it's the very West Wing approach to do the walk and talk, but you can't convincingly run and talk, because then within a minute you're like, and then you're going to go to the third door, and then oh, God, cramp at the end of the third hall. No, it's fine.
I'm the god of mischief, not cardio.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like to imagine them walking and like talking, and then they get there and they're like breaking in. They're like, "All right, Loki,
yeah."
When did he break off from us?
When did he? Huh?
Exactly.
How long have I been talking by myself?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, there was fighting outside the door. Like, we could hear as Frigga say. So I'm assuming that it was the 2 frost giants, Laufey and his minion, who were battling some Einherjar guards out in the hall, killing them, freezing them to death, whatever it was they were doing. Yeah, I mean, Loki obviously disappeared, at some point, because I don't think that he could be seen with them. I mean, I like I said earlier, it's possible people would have seen the two of them and said, "Oh, it's a king visiting another king."
Yeah,
I feel like everybody kind of knows. We're kind of on the brink of war with them right now. I don't think we're having peace talks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about tomorrow as these frost giants are bursting into to battle Frigga. So I guess we will see what happens then. Any last thoughts on this minute, or should we wrap things up?
Do they freeze everything they come near, or was the freezing thing just in case it was locked, or was it locked, and did they need to freeze it to burst it open? Because they seem like it opened pretty quickly. Almost
I think
like the freezing was just a
little bit of everything.
Okay,
I don't think that they need to freeze everything, but I think that's just sort of exerting power.
Like a wet bandit sort of
yes.
like calling card thing.
That's interesting, though, because I had a few questions. One, do frost giants, when they're not on Jotunheim, are they intrinsically less strong because they're not in an icy environment, right?
Frosty the snow giant.
Right, they're kind of a little slushy. They're kind of
I don't know, because they certainly seemed powerful enough when they first break in to Asgard, but I bet you if you put them on where is Surtur? Is that
Skarvelheim?
Svartalheim?
Something, yeah.
Was it Svartalheim?
Svartalheim? Yeah, it might be it.
Yeah. It's either a K or a V every time.
The thing is, at this point, it's been almost a full year, but we got into all 9 of those realms at one point. And I've said a billion times because we had to get through them. Yeah, but I bet you if they went to Svartalheim, they'd be like, okay, this is not good, because there is no moisture to pull from, kind of thing.
Well, it's like Submariner when he's out of water for long enough that like he can do it, but he's gonna get weaker and weaker until someone splashes some water on him or whatever.
Iceman is the same way in X-Men. He at one point ends up in Houston, Texas, and is like struggling to maintain his form and his powers. He's like, this is not good. It's 108 degrees here. I've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So you never know.
But it's so humid.
My only thought that I had was, the kiss was this minute, right? All of a sudden, everything's blurring together.
Yeah,
okay,
cool.
Just double checking. This is the kissy minute. I'm not sure which of the two I'm more jealous of. And that's all that I'm going to say.
I want to be right in the middle. Right?
Oh, yes, please. Yes, okay. Like, don't mind me.
All right. Well, you two, thank you so much for joining me again today on this show. Remind everybody where they can hear your podcast.
Absolutely. You can follow us on Twitter at Timeline Scav, SCAV. It's the first four of Scavengers. And you can we'll post the new episodes. Currently, we are every Wednesday and Sunday. And starting in, I think it's April of this year, maybe May, one of those two, we go to 3 episodes a week because otherwise we'll never get through nearly anything. We have barely scratched the surface of the MCU. So join us there. You'll find us posting stuff about recent episodes and even backlogged episodes as we put in old episodes and timelines that we've already passed, like the Eternals. So you can expect a lot of drop-in episodes from them very soon. And then also scavengersnetwork.com or at scavengersnet on Twitter to also find out more information about the other shows that we both work on.
I think it looks like Captain America is going to start in earnest with the 3 episodes a week nearing the end of May.
Excellent.
Cool.
Excellent.
Wow.
Well, thanks both of you for joining again. All of our wonderful listeners, thank you for tuning in. Remember, you can join the Discord community. Just go to our MarvelMovieMinute.com and you can click on the social of your choice, or Discord's up there too. And thanks for all of your support. We love getting you in on the conversations. We really appreciate it. And as Matthew would say, have a good day. And as I always say, until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is One Last Ride by Martin Puringer. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.